Pizza time.
I don't normally do videos like these, but there is now on the market for pre-order the Blackmagic 12K cinema camera. 12K. Red, I feel like not even that long ago released the 8K cinema camera, and that was the huge spec thing that everyone was looking after, and now we have 12K. And it's priced way below something like the Red cinema camera in a system that, at least from what I can tell, a lot of people are using, like the Ursa cameras. Great. It's in a form factor people are familiar with. It's for a super low price, and it looks kind of perfect. It has a new color science, and it has a ton of great options for recording. I believe that you can put in an SSD in there, which is a lot better than using CFast 2.0 cards or any of really the new standard ways of doing recording, like XQC cards, S by XS cards, all those other formats, garbage. SSDs, perfect. And you can put one in the 12K, Blackmagic. That's amazing. There's some competition there. There is the C300 Mark III for 10K, and there's also the FX9 for 10K. Those two systems are very, very good for the money, but this one is trying to just run in there and take over that market. Personally, I would never buy it. There's a lot of other reasons I feel like you shouldn't be purchasing this camera. Don't be like Linus and buying 6 of them. He has monetary reasons for being able to do that. Which, by the way, of course Linus got a 12K cinema camera. Of course. Why wouldn't he? I just find that very amusing that he's always the first. I can't wait till Marquez also does that. But I would like to say that you shouldn't be buying this camera. A 12K Blackmagic cinema camera isn't a camera you should buy at all. But let's go through the history of it beforehand. I have worked with Blackmagic cinema cameras before. In fact, I'm actually filming on one right now. And if you can guess what camera this is, comment down below and we'll figure something out. I don't know. You might just get brownie points. But yeah, I've had history with Blackmagic cinema cameras and they've not been good at all. I first experienced the Blackmagic Pocket in high school, and even before then I experienced the Blackmagic cinema camera, and I used one of my friends, and they were buggy, inconvenient to use. There's just so many things wrong with the system that had to do either with firmware or like I remember on one of them the battery timer was just bad. On the Pocket specifically, it overheated several times. It's just like there's a lot of features in these cameras that are very strong, but because they had to cut down that price, a lot of their software development hasn't been good. So I haven't had the best impression of the company for a very long time. Now I picked up the camera that I'm using right now because it serves a specific niche for me, but without that, I really don't trust their products. And for 12K to be a thing in a Blackmagic cinema camera, personally, I would feel quite standoffish towards that prospect. So pre-ordering, definitely not a thing. If they can get it to work and they prove it, then I'm totally down to recommend it more often. But because we don't know how the firmware is going to be, how the 12K is actually going to work, if it's going to overheat, if there's going to be screen problems, if there's going to be something that gets sacrificed in the manufacturing process to get that 12K in there, it's the main reason why I don't like the idea of pre-ordering cameras. I don't think it's good for any camera system. One thing that's really good is that it actually does have a lot of great features that I think are good for run and gun people. So ND filters is one thing, having a bunch of accessible buttons. I actually like the large screen because I don't have to rig up something like a small HD monitor. If it's big enough, it's a 1080p screen. That's fantastic. But it also is a little bit reductive because even though it has Blackmagic special compressed RAW, it doesn't have things like ProRes 422 in it. And honestly, that is a huge point why I don't think people should be buying this thing. Yes, RAW is easy to work with if you have DaVinci Resolve. Like their RAW is very, very good, especially with that new color science. I bet it's going to look fantastic for DaVinci Resolve users. But I think for a lot of people doing documentary work or a lot of off-the-cuff commercial work, run and gun style, this isn't the camera. Like, I'm going to look back at it and just looking at it, I've never enjoyed the Ursa's ergonomics for just putting it on either one of those stabilizers or hand holding it. It's definitely a shoulder mounted sort of camera, and it's not necessarily discreet. And you can't really even strip it down for it to be incredibly lightweight for a lot of documentary or run and gun shoots for single camera operators. Something like the C300 Mark III works a lot better. Even the FX9, I would say, even though that's a more shoulder mounted camera, it has great autofocus. Both of those systems have great autofocus for a lot of camera owner operators. That's such a long name. I feel like there should be a better term, but like, I don't want to just say cinematographers, because cinematographers are, that could mean anything really. But for camera owner operators, yeah, I don't think that this is going to be a terribly convenient system, even though it does have those ND filters, even though it does have a lot of great specs. I feel like for those people, it's about speed. So they're not going to be using that 12K. They're going to be using that downsampled 4K, downsampled 8K even. But a lot of production companies aren't really ready to handle those files yet. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to happen. Like, even for me, going from using H.264 footage to ProRes footage, I had to get more hard drives for a lot of my jobs. Now, yes, it did make my editing process easier. The files definitely look better. But even just going from H.264 to ProRes, that is a lot of data. So if you are doing more stuff, and especially if you're a sole freelancer, this camera doesn't seem very useful for those purposes. But it doesn't mean it doesn't have a place in the market. I think the perfect use case for this camera, and if you are going to be using this camera, is to rent it. Because it's $10,000, I bet the price for it is going to be only about $500 to $700 a day renting it. And if you are on those big buck productions for commercials, VFX work, green screen, that would be a perfect time to pop this thing out. 12K is going to be great for chroma key. If you are on any big budget, of course you're going to have the money for them to pay you for that raw footage. Downsampled 8K from the 12K is perfect for those applications, but I think for anyone else, it's not going to be that useful. This is a sort of deal where you would need multiple people to sign off on those little hidden costs that this is going to bring you. But again, renting it for the 700, 750 a day, I think that's where the niche of this camera lies. So I would definitely chalk this up as one of those like Ari Alexa Red situations where I would never own this camera. Like, I really cannot emphasize this enough. As somebody who is a camera owner operator, this camera just does not seem good for the solo shooter. But it also isn't out yet, so I don't know. I'm very excited to see where this camera goes and what I can hopefully see footage from. I can't wait to see all the camera reviews about it. It's going to be really, really cool. But that's about it. Those are my impressions of the 12K cinema camera, and yeah, that's about it. I feel like I should do these more. I kind of like these. Never really know how to end them.